Welcome back to another episode of Cape Ann Today. Stephen, you have two stories about things. Um,
Well,
about
actually, three. All three involve ignitions of things. The first thing was a pretty big story that was could have been very tragic. A boat that caught on fire, then exploded right after it had gone through the Blynman Canal and the drawbridge. They started up the engine, and it first caught on fire, then exploded. Two guys jumped off the boat. There was a dog that was on the boat, and he was rescued by a passing boater who was able to navigate his boat right next to the burning boat and grab the dog and take him off and took him to Cape Ann Animal Aid. And he's okay. His name's Harley. Good dog. And but the two guys were injured. They were taken to Beverly Hospital. I think they were both Gloucester guys. The boat itself, I arrived a few minutes after it happened, and I saw the smoke. I pulled into the parking lot at the high school, and you could see the sky was filled with smoke from the boat burning in the canal. What happened was the boat, although it ignited, it exploded outside the canal. The current took it back through the drawbridge. And I went up and talked to the drawbridge tender, and he was a great guy, Mario. He had photographs of videos. Hey, come look what I got here. It was great. The name of the boat, the Grace and Marcus was the name of the boat. It eventually drifted into the canal, and firefighters were able to put down that fire using both water and foam, non-toxic foam, I might add. They used to use the toxic variety of it, but not anymore. But they got the boat out, and it was towed to Cape Ann Marina. The two guys were injured. They had bloodied extremities, but there weren't serious injuries. So I'm sorry?
burns or smoke inhalation, but they were injured from the accident, not from jumping in the water, right?
Right, correct. So that took up a lot of
Hold on,
space.
hold on one second. Were they reunited with Harley?
Yes, they were. The dog was taken, as I said, to Cape Ann Animal Aid. I talked to the executive director. She was charmed by the dog. The dog was a sweet dog, she said. And somebody came by and picked him up because either one of the guys or one of their family members picked up the dog. Um,
And any understanding of what happened to the boat?
no, there's an investigation, obviously, that will take some time. The boat, it's actually, I don't know if this will come through on the.
Oh yeah, there it is.
There it is. It's sitting. We have better photos of the boat burning, but that's what it looked like after it was towed up to Cape Ann Marina.
Yeah. Wow.
So again, there'll be an investigation, and we'll find out what really happened.
Yeah. Was this a
Um,
recreational vehicle? Were they just going out for a boat ride, or were they fishing? Do you have any?
that wasn't clear to me. I was told it wasn't. I thought it might have been a lobster boat, but it didn't appear to be lobster boats. They had the the back end that are parallel or open to the water almost. But I don't know what kind of boat it was. I really don't.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
so
then,
after that was on Friday. Today is Thursday. On today in Rockport, the fine fair village of Rockport, um, they have a plan. That was good. They have a planned an angel.
exactly.
Um, they have a planned detonation at the DPW site off Upper Main Street, and it's actually at 2 DPW Way. They're building a new DPW facility, and to do that, they discovered this is all part of the project. It's not going to add any additional price to the project, according to Mitch Vieira, the town administrator. But they found ledge, so they have to remove it, and to do that, they have to detonate. Um, Use dynamite to remove it.
This is
So
pretty thick.
that'll be ongoing for 21 business days. So basically 3-4 weeks. Um, it'll be intermittent. You really won't be able to, according to the director of the project, he said most people won't even know it happens. It's really, um, they're small controlled demolitions, explosions rather. And there will be a horn that sounds, an air horn that sounds a few minutes before the demolition. But again, he told me that's more for the construction people on the site. Residents will probably hear it. I'm gathering, but that's planned and that's controlled. In the midst of that, yesterday on Wednesday, there was a unplanned explosion that took place at the end of Jordan Lane extension. So you go down in Rockport, you go by the high school, you keep going out to this gravel road. There was a construction project, and the construction project, they apparently there was an uncontrolled explosion that sent rocks and debris all over and destroyed one car, an old Toyota Camry, an older model Toyota Camry. Heavily damaged two excavators on the side. These are big machines. And there was a person there that was also injured. I hate calling them slight injuries or not serious injuries, because the Beauport ambulance responded, and he was not transported. He was on the scene. He had some injuries, and so that's another investigation taking place now. The investigation is being handled by the State Fire Marshal's Office, the State Department of Fire Services.
So, Stephen, when you say an uncontrolled explosion, what does that mean? Was it an accident that something exploded, or were they?
I can't speak to that, because that's what the investigation will apparently determine. Okay. The details on what actually happened are pretty sketchy, and
I see.
Public officials are pretty close to the vest about that at any point right now.
So we don't know that there was a project going on there that involved.
There was a project. There were huge boulders in the area that were being removed. Okay. I think that is I don't know what the project. I had written about a home that was being built in the area, so I think that may be part of that project. Okay. It's a really fascinating part of Rockport that I had never been to. I've been to the high school a number of times, but I'd never been all the way down to the end of Jordan's Lane. There's actually, I was told there's a farm at the end of the lane. I walked down there and was greeted with signs that said, "Go away, or you shall be in Rockport Purgatory." So.
Well, it's kind of wild, but not wild in a sense of crazy, but it feels very remote.
It does. I noticed there's a cemetery across on the site. I looked on the map. I couldn't find the name of the cemetery, but there's an old cemetery down there. There's the farm, and there's a few houses on this gravelly road. It's about a quarter mile or more from the high school.
So can we anticipate follow-up with this story? Because
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And we are glad that no one was injured, including Carly. So that's all.
Oh, and in the Gloucester blast, well, there were injuries, but they were not serious injuries.
Right.
To the boaters, and the dog apparently, from all accounts, is in good shape.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for that. Okay.
You're welcome.
You have some really good reporting this week. One is on the city council meeting and the turn lanes, and the other is on the fishermen and the wind turbines. Tell us about the fishermen and the wind turbines first.
Well, hey Heather, how you doing?
Hi. Hi, Ethan.
How you doing? So the wind energy is a concern, I think, of the fishing community. I think that's a no-brainer. And so the Gloucester Fishermen's Wives Association and the UMass Amherst Gloucester Marine Station have been conducting a series of webinars on this issue. And on last week, brought together some officials from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, a federal agency that's sort of overseeing this process, and talking about where they are in the process. A lot of process talk was the subject of this webinar. I guess they've gone through they're going through the sort of planning and analysis phase. And really the upshot of this is when they go through the phases, where are they going to site the windmills? They know the wind call area. It's a huge, vast area of ocean in the Gulf of Maine, and they're trying to figure out where the best place is to site these wind turbines. And so this is even before we're talking about projects. They need to find a place to put them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had the project coordinator for BOEM, Seth Therakoff, and fisheries biologist Brandon Jensen sort of outlining the planning process for the siting of these wind farms. And we had some feedback. There was about 50 people on the call, some local, some not, some from Scituate, some other places. Yeah, Fisherman Al Catone, he's the executive director of the Gloucester Fisheries Commission, and he works, he works with, Angela Sanfilippo, the president of Fishermen's Wives Association, the Mass Fishermen's Mass Fishermen's Partnership executive director. So they were just kind of outlining their concerns. Al had more of practical concerns of a fisherman. If you're going to be putting these transmission lines in from however these turbines are going to go in, are they going to be anchored? Are they going to be floating? The big concern is the transmission lines are going to shore, outside the wind call area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to stir up the boulders? Fishermen are going to know where to go and, trawl.
Right.
And that it can pose a danger to them. Al was saying that he doesn't think that once these where these arrays are going to go in, that they'll ever be able to fish in there. He was talking to
He felt like these grounds would be disrupted forever. These lines, right? That will be done for fishing.
No, it's not as if the federal government is not they're trying to get the best science data possible. They're looking at a number of things. They've talked to NOAA. They've got, they're looking at the trip data. Where do the charters go? I mean, everything. They're trying to get as granular data as possible, creating these spatial model of the Gulf of. Don't tell me what the spatial model is, but that's what they're trying to do. Of the Gulf of Maine, to try to figure out what areas would be best, suited for these wind farms. It's very technical, but they are making an attempt to try to figure it out. Do they go in the lobster management areas? They don't want to go there. Seasonal closures, they want to take that into consideration. Existing places where ship channels, whatever separation channels are existing. And then the other complication, of course, not complication, but concern, is the North Atlantic right whale. Mm-hmm. North Atlantic right whales pretty much stick, are close into the shore. How are you gonna avoid harming marine mammals, large marine mammals? And so
in this whole construction process, right?
So they're looking at this. They're trying to look at the best data. I think we've talked about this before. Al Catone had presented what he called a heat map. What they're creating is a heat map, the best place to put it. But he showed some vehicle trip data, when you go out, I guess you log your data, and it, where the most of the fishing activity is taking place. And he's trying to make the point that, a lot of this area is where the fishing is taking place.
Mm-hmm. Where they want to put these turbines.
Yeah. And of course they're gonna take into account. They're not gonna go to Stellwagen Bank, obviously.
Right.
That's a national marine sanctuary. So it's a pretty big ocean. The figure that I heard was, in order to meet the requirements of different stakeholders, the wind energy, Massachusetts, Maine, they're looking for an area of 2 million square acres as the area. But it's a vast area. This is a vast It's a vast ocean. The Gulf of Maine is enormous. I think we look at a map, but the scale of it is pretty intense. So Al Catone, Tony had a little bit more of the practical concerns about fishermen getting hung up on the bottom. If they have to get back to port in a hurry in a storm, do they have to circumnavigate around wind farms, just sort of really more of a fisherman's take on these. There were concerns too, also expressed, electromagnetic field generated by these transmission cables, how that could harm the habitat.
Wow.
It's a lot of deep thinking. Oh God, that's a pun, but I didn't mean it. A lot of deep thinking going into this, and it's not as if BOEM isn't listening. They're listening. They're looking to hear as much as possible from the fishing community to try to get as much on the water know-how feedback as possible. So that leads me to they're having meetings in Maine. But there's an upcoming meeting in July 27th in Plymouth, at Plymouth North High School cafeteria, 41 Overy Street. Registration, I think if you Google BOEM, you can probably get the link, the registration link. I'm not going to read it out here.
Which
but
is
the point is that they're having meetings with the fisheries stakeholders on July 27th in Plymouth, Mass.
Okay. Which is
BOEM? That meeting is going from Bureau of Ocean Energy Management.
Thank you.
That's the federal agency that's behind all the siting of these wind farms.
So they're hosting a meeting.
It's their meeting, and they're inviting stakeholders. Similar to what we heard, the webinar is probably available online on YouTube. But it was a very wide ranging discussion. Patty Page from Mortallaro Lobster in Gloucester. Gloucester is one of the biggest landing ports. Is the biggest message for lobster landings. Huge groundfish port, and she's concerned. They're asking where are the studies about how these wind turbines and their infrastructure increase ocean environmental health. She doesn't think they do.
Interesting.
So stay tuned on that. We're not anywhere near construction of these things, but this is the phase where the federal government is looking to get more feedback. So if you're interested, probably Bureau of Ocean Energy Management website. I think the webinar is probably available as well. And it's a big issue for the fishing community. That really is kind of fragile with all the closures, regulations, catch limits. So I'd stay tuned for that on how this could impact everything.
Yeah, this is a big one. Not as if the fishermen haven't had big issues to manage.
Yeah. I know, you got to fish around wind turbines, but who knows? I mean, other places in the world have them.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
They have them offshore. How many places? Yeah.
No, I don't know. That I don't know. But they are in Europe. They have offshore wind farms.
Yeah.
But the situation could be different.
Right. Well, tell us about this city council meeting.
Well, it's been interesting. It's something that I would think that I probably wouldn't have even written about. The new school on Webster Street. It's the combined East Veterans, East Gloucester, and Veterans Memorial Schools. 440 student school, $66.7 million project. The project was somewhat controversial. Some people didn't like the site. They felt the school was too big there. But now it's nearing completion. It's a really beautiful school. I mean, that's my opinion. But the site also resulted in the loss of the softball field, the Matos Field. That project to recreate a women's softball, girls softball field on Green Street. It should be happening starting soon to replace that field. But it's left a lot of, I think, among some residents in the neighborhood are unhappy about it. So the Ward 2 Councilor Tracy O'Neill objected to these turn lanes. Now, I think as a layman, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it would kind of make sense to have a right and a left turn lane onto Eastern Avenue. If you know that intersection, it's not far away. Off is the Bassa, the lights, the big lights there. Big intersection with the Route 128 extension. So it's very close.
Yeah. So as you come
down, as you come down Webster Street, what they want you to do is just a left and a right lane. I think it makes sense because you want to stack the traffic. you don't want everyone backing up in one big line waiting to take a left or a right.
Right.
The idea was that the road is wide enough, people are gonna form those lanes anyway, but they don't want to take any chances. They don't want the traffic to back up so that they can't get the circulation out of the school. The traffic circulation in the school, they have taken pains to have it all going into the school. The bus drop off, everything is going to circle around out to the back of the school and out again. So they've taken this into consideration. And you're going to remember, now, I wasn't covering Gloucester when the Veterans was open. It was a much smaller school, but there's been a school in this neighborhood. It's not as if there hasn't been a school. There hasn't been school traffic. The big issue for these turning lanes is pickup, the afternoon. Traffic heading out with the buses. So that's where the big worry is. So Tracy is concerned. She has a legitimate concern that perhaps you can't. There's bad sight lines when you're trying to take a turn and you can't see around the other two lanes of traffic, the left turn lane, and then the people swinging in, and the tractor trailers and stuff like that.
If you're trying to turn right, you can't see if someone's coming from the left because.
Well, if somebody pulls out to take a left, you can go.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, they're clear. Okay. So the sight line for a right-hand turn, I don't think is as critical. That's my opinion.
Yeah. There's sort of
yeah. So Councilor O'Neill has called a 211C. It was heading for a vote. She called what's called a 211C in Gloucester. It's a charter objection. Shutdown debate. Shuts everything down. Superintendent was on the line. What do you do? The big critical issue for this is the school's opening soon. They have to put this stuff in place. The ordinance, you need an ordinance change to make a right and a left-hand turn lane. Ordinances don't go into effect for about 31 days. I didn't put this in an article, but it's a 31 day before the ordinance can take effect. So the school's going to open up at the end of August, 31 days.
Right.
If they delay this too long, they'd have to open the school without them. I don't know. I think Councilor Jeff Worthley summed it up, kind of said that there's been a lot of hard feelings about the project, hard feelings about the site. And I feel like he was saying that this was extending into this issue. And, Tracy O'Neill took a hard stance on it. She voted no. Councilor O'Hara, Councilor at Large Jamie O'Hara, also, he had voted for it in committee, but he said no, he didn't think it was a good idea. There's been some concern raised by Ward 1 Councilor Scott Memard, I think during the meeting about tractor trailer traffic in the area. So that might be a line of questioning, but it passed. The turn lanes passed, and so the issues.
Sort of technically, if Councilor O'Neill stopped the vote, how is it able to continue?
Yeah, so it's just a procedural thing. If you call this charter objection, it stops the vote until the next meeting.
So this was the second meeting where they
there was a meeting last week.
I see.
And it stopped, and then we had a meeting on Tuesday night, special meeting just for this.
Just to vote on this.
And it was actually, I thought the meeting was going to go a short meeting, on for over half an hour.
No. Still talking.
So I mean, look, it's good they're having this discussion. I don't know whether it's just hard feelings about the school, or maybe they the neighborhood wisdom is you don't need the turn lanes, don't add something, wait to see how things are going to go out. And I want to make another point. Superintendent has said, if it doesn't work, we'll get rid of them. We want to see, it's going to take some time for things to work out. Let's open the school and see how things work out. Right. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful school. I think school tours. I think they're going to start giving tours to folks. I've been through it under construction. I'm looking forward to going through it. I think the teachers are going to start being able to start setting up their classrooms soon. This is it's a very exciting thing. It's a lot of heartache for a lot of people. Their schools are closed, Veterans closed, East Gloucester's closed. A lot. It's meant a lot of I had a lot of heartache in the city, but this looks like to me a very beautiful project, beautiful school. I've seen a lot of school. I've been a reporter for almost 30 years. It's one of the nicest schools I've seen constructed. Elementary schools, really well thought out. Really seems to be down to having backyard growers have a garden bed for their garden program. That was worked into the program. I mean, that kind of granular detail is something that has really shined, I think, in this project. And we'll see. Hopefully, the school opens. We never hear about turn lanes, traffic, and kids get the education they deserve.
Yeah, ultimately, it's about the teachers and the kids. And and when
that's
you put
what
a
it's
bunch
all
of
about.
teachers and kids in a building, it becomes a school, and it does become the center of a neighborhood. So that does happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll hopefully, there's been a lot of hard feelings, but I'm just hoping that time will just allow everyone to move ahead, and the kids get a good education. It becomes a good amenity for the city.
Right. Well, great story. Thank you both for keeping us posted on everything this week, and I will talk to you next week.
Heather, thanks very much.
Bye,
Okay.
Heather.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.